So I'll let Kelly kick it off.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tanya. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be hearing from some of the utility companies. If you were able to join, I'm forgetting the date of our last one, but it was about a week ago. We heard from PSEG, Long Island, Con Ed, and I'm blanking on the other one that we heard from.
NYSEG Genie.
Yes, NYSEG Genie. So if you have questions around data collection from those utility companies, we have a recording available of that session. Please let me know, and I can provide a link to that. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about the background of benchmarking at HCR. I should first introduce myself. My name is Kelly Richardson. I'm the Director of Data Management in the Office of Housing Preservation at HCR. So hopefully everyone can see my screen here. So HCR is New York State's affordable housing agency, and we have a mission to build, preserve, and protect affordable housing and increase homeownership throughout New York State. Specifically in the Office of Housing Preservation, we have several functions. We have the statewide asset management unit, which sort of oversees the regulatory compliance of existing affordable housing developments, and that includes our 9% low-income housing tax credits and other HCR capital programs, housing finance agency bond financing, 4% low-income housing tax credits and subsidy funds, the Mitchell-Lama housing portfolio that is state supervised, and state-aided public housing developments. The Office of Housing Preservation also has the tenant and project-based housing voucher programs, so that's Section 8. And we also have the Weatherization Assistance Program, which some of you may be familiar with. So our benchmarking program is primarily seeking to understand and quantify our various affordable housing portfolios' role in contributing to city and state energy and climate initiatives, whether we're meeting the goals that we expected to see or savings that we expect to see from various energy efficiency measures, and strategically target some of our highest energy users and connect them to resources and incentive programs to help reduce their energy usage. And also develop our program guidelines that to be informed by the benchmarking data moving forward. So benchmarking at HCR has been around for quite some time. We started quite small with just a few of our Mitchell-Lama properties in 2014. And we've kind of grown throughout the years and added various portfolios and properties as we go. To the last 2 years, we're at about 1,100 properties, which is, if I'm remembering correctly, approximately 4,000 buildings. So we have quite a few participating in this effort. Currently, we work with Stephen Winter Associates to coordinate data collection and analysis on behalf of the agency, and they also work directly with properties and their energy consultants to help get everyone submitting their data on time. Our covered buildings list is published on our website, hcr.ny.gov. /benchmarking will take you directly to our benchmarking webpage. But the covered building definition outlined here is just the criteria that we use to determine who should be on the covered buildings list. I will note, though, that the covered buildings list is not exhaustive. So if a development with an HCR regulatory agreement meets any of the criteria listed here, they should also be benchmarking with HCR. So we request that our private housing finance law Article 2 and Article 4 Mitchell-Lama developments that are 25,000 square feet or larger participate. Our New York State aided municipal housing authority project. Any projects that are certified by the Climate Bond Initiative as green or climate bonds, projects financed with HFA bonds, 4% tax credits, and subsidy funds in the fall of 2019 or later. And I'll just note that the 2019 year there is important because that's when we started including language in our regulatory agreements about benchmarking. So essentially all new HFA projects should be benchmarking with us. Properties in excess of 25,000 square feet and located outside of New York City that are in receipt of our 9% tax credits or other HCR capital programs. And properties subject to New York City Local Law 84 as amended, or any projects that are subject to an energy benchmarking requirement as set forth in a regulatory agreement with HCR. So we try to cover a wide swath of our projects with this criteria. Just a little bit about the history of our compliance with benchmarking. So we are still roughly 50% compliance, 40 to 50% compliance is what we see currently. And we consider full program compliance to be an on-time submission of aggregated whole building, including owner and resident paid usage data in our EPA Portfolio Manager reporting link, and an on-time submission of the property intake survey if it is required. And the covered buildings list will include information on if a property intake survey is required for a particular project. Part of the reason why we wanted to do these webinars is in the past we have had many of our properties submit either only the owner paid data or just a portion of their data, and so we've had quite a few properties whose data has failed our quality checks, where we're looking at either extremely low usage that does not match the square footage of the property or extremely high usage that seems unrealistic for the project. So we're hoping to get a little bit cleaner data this year. And a quick timeline on benchmarking at HCR. So we do have a waiver for benchmarking requirements if a property feels they do not actually meet the criteria on the covered buildings list. And there is a link to the waiver request on the benchmarking website, and that is due April 3rd. Otherwise, all data and the property intake survey is due May 1st. We keep the same due date as New York City for Local Law 84 so that we're not creating multiple due dates for people. So that has also meant that in the past, if New York City extends their due date for whatever reason, we also extend our due date to match theirs so that we're being consistent. Over the summer, we do some portfolio and building level data analysis. And then for anyone who submitted their data and their property intake survey on time, we generate an individualized property report and distribute them sort of late summer, early fall. And those property reports contain some information about the historical trends. If you have submitted usage data for more than 1 year, we kind of show a little bit of a trend. We show what resources or various programs, you know, at NYSERDA or some of the utility companies that you may want to explore to reduce your usage. And then in the fall, we usually do a presentation for our asset managers in-house, and then we also do a presentation for property owners and invite both NYSERDA and the utility companies to come speak about programs that they offer so that we can connect folks to resources and help them reduce their usage. I've included the HCR sustainability email address here. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. And that is it for me for now.
Thank you.
Yep.
You might have to, nope, I think I got it. So I am Tanya Dougal. I work with the Department of Public Service. I have been facilitating um, conversations between the utilities and HCR, and we're hoping that utilities are able to provide you all with some useful information as we go into the compliance season. I just want to share a little bit of background on the utilities' um, responsibilities for making data available. Uh, the Commission adopted the whole building benchmarking provisions within its 2018 order. I will note that while many utilities are covered under this, PSEG Long Island does not have the same requirements that the um, investor-owned utilities do within the state, but the investor-owned utilities have the requirement to provide data upon request. They have been required to facilitate data transfer in a way that facilitates upload to Energy Star Portfolio Manager or work towards it if they haven't gotten there yet. And we are hoping that these conversations enable improvements to systems and communications between those systems to make this process easier as time goes on. Um, so while not all the companies will provide data for free, they will provide data and they'll discuss how long they provide that data and what format they provide that data in when they present. And um, and the privacy screens that are in place will vary upon location, whereas like for New York City, they'll have privacy screens that supersede our order. But for the most part, all the utilities are able to provide customers with whole building benchmarking data so long as the requests come in a way that is complacent with the procedures and the requirements and the privacy screens and anything like that. So I want to take this moment to just kind of introduce the utilities that are presenting today. We have National Grid, NFG, ONR, and Central Hudson. National Grid has been a pioneer in this work. They have been one of the first companies to facilitate automatic upload to Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Um, NFG has a much smaller game, but they have been able to provide data, and I believe ONR and Central Hudson have been able to provide data upon request. So what I want to do in order to facilitate their understanding of our participants is go through a few poll questions just so that we can get a sense of what types of participants are here and what service territories they are representative of. So the first question that we will ask will be, what type of participant are you? And if you can provide those answers, you should see the poll show up now. Okay, so I think we've gotten all of the responses that we'd expecting. Okay, so everybody here is from benchmarking, our benchmarking service providers. That's great to know. And then the next question will be, okay, great. We got everyone to participate. Thank you. And then the next question will be about how many buildings your portfolio may, sorry, um, how many buildings are within the portfolio that you oversee that are these are for HCR um, properties specifically. And if you don't know specifics, just trying to guess the most likely answer. About 10 more seconds to answer if anyone has not yet submitted a response. Okay. So it looks like we have a number of large portfolio customers here. And the final question is just about what territories you might be here representing. Right. There is a choice for multiple, but I've also changed it so that you could select the specifics, select multiple options if that's easier. And I apologize that they're not in alphabetical order. Okay, great. Central Hudson, Con Edison, National Grid, NYSEG RG&E, PISA. Great, we have pretty good coverage on this call today. Great. I think everyone answered these questions. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So I am going to turn it over to National Grid for them to share their presentation. If you guys should be able to claim the presenter role, the participant listing.
Yep. Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much. I can take it over.
Great. Thank you.
All right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanzima Sultana. I am here representing National Grid. I am a program manager from National Grid, currently managing the benchmarking program. So hopefully everyone's doing well, and we can go ahead and get started. And I hope everyone can hear me okay and see my screen properly. All right, so I will proceed. Let me see. I'll put this in presentation mode. All right, so today I'm basically going to go through the process for the aggregated whole building benchmarking data that customers will have to either automate or do it manually. So it's like 2 to 3 step process, well, 3-step process for first time users really. And I'll go through the entire process from like soup to nuts and exactly how it goes. And also some FAQs and some frequently asked questions that we tend to get. So hopefully that will answer some of the lingering questions that anyone might have as well. All right, so I think I mentioned that it's a relatively simple process that we've created at Grid. And really, this is just an overview. I'm going to go in a little bit more details in just a bit. But to get started, one would have to create an account on the EPA Portfolio Manager. Once that account is created, then they would have to get that initial share request and make sure that they follow the step-by-step process on the EPA Portfolio Manager. And once that portfolio manager is set up and it's connected with National Grid, then they'll have to come to National Grid's website and fill out a web service form. And once that form is completed, it's basically all squared away and set up. And in every step of the way, you'll be notified whether the process has went through smoothly or if there is any error or whatnot. But I'll go in a little bit more details now. So basically setting up your portfolio manager account. So step one, just creating the account for first-time users on the portfolio manager. Once you have that account established, customers will, or property managers, building owners, you'll have to make sure that National Grid is a contact for your EPM portfolio manager account. If it is not connected, you'll have to do that and make sure that you add National Grid as a contact. Just be aware that if it may take up to 24 hours for you to add National Grid as a contact and connect portfolio manager to National Grid. A few things that you'll have to fill out, really just, it's pretty straightforward on the portfolio manager, but here are some few details that will walk you through. Just make sure that you're selecting National Grid Web Services, you're agreeing to terms and conditions, and you're sending the connection request appropriately. And make sure that you are setting up the web services data exchange request. And so you have to click on this one, and up on this page, like on EPM Portfolio Manager, on the top banner, it will kind of show you exactly what are the steps, and you'll have to follow through. It's basically choosing National Grid Web Services, depending on how many properties you're dealing with, single property, multiple properties, and then also making sure that you're choosing your permissions on the EPM website correctly. We have, I believe, Tanya, you will be sharing this deck with the audience later. So for folks who are, it's difficult to see right now, once you have this, you'll be able to see in more details exactly which selections you'll need to make sure that all the permissions are granted. And once you pass this, please make sure that you provide full access to National Grid so that we can really ensure that we're providing the customers with whole building aggregate data when it comes to any utility services that National Grid provides, at least. So all of the radio buttons that you see here is exactly what customers will have to make sure that they select on their portfolio manager. And so one thing I just really want to highlight here is that for property information that exchange full data access, this really needs to be selected for this radio button. I think sometimes customers do make the mistake and they exchange data read only. So please make sure that we have full access to give you all the aggregate usage for your properties. And really, it's as simple as creating that on the portfolio manager. And once you completed all of these steps, like you choosing your permission, you're creating that connection, and you're getting that confirmation. Once you have the confirmation, it will let you know that you're all set up on the portfolio manager's website end, at least. Once your connection and National Grid has been connected with the portfolio manager side, then you'll come back to National Grid. So this is the step 2 or step 3 for first-time users. Just make sure you come to ngrid.com/EPM to do the other part of the sharing. So that's what I'm going to go through in a little bit more details right now. And so when you come to the National Grid website, so ngrid.com/EPM, it is very important that you're choosing your appropriate region. So on our website, on the upper left-hand corner, you'll be able to select which region this is for, because we do service downstate New York, upstate New York, Massachusetts. So it's important that you're making that selection. And this is only applicable for Massachusetts and upstate customers, but for customers, and if you have properties in downstate New York, this is not going to be applicable. So depending on how many accounts there are, you will need to provide a consent form. So again, not applicable for downstate New York customers, but where it is a mandate. But for upstate and Massachusetts customers, they will have to provide a consent form for if the building has 3 or less accounts. But if the building has more than 4 accounts, they can continue with the form. This will be the tenant authorization form that's only required. Again, Massachusetts and upstate. I have a sample for the upstate, but it's practically the same for downstate New York as well. This is the web form that one would have to fill out for the National Grid Web Services. So make sure that all the information is appropriately filled in correctly here. So a couple of things I do want to highlight here is that you'll need the portfolio ID number from Portfolio Manager, and the service address that you enter here really needs to match the service address that you have on the National Grid bill. So the address that exactly shows up on the utility bill from National Grid is exactly how we expect for it to show up on the web form when you're completing the National Grid web form here. And we just need one active account number for you to continue. And again, just following through the terms and conditions. So it's easy peasy here. And then you submit. And that's as easy as completing the web form on National Grid side. Here, we just kind of emphasize that it really needs to, the service address that you enter on the web form really needs to match the service address that you have on your bill, not the mailing address or anything like that. So depending on how you completed the web form for National Grid, you'll get like 2 different outcomes. So if the submission went through appropriately, then you'll get a confirmation that everything went through smoothly. But if there were errors, it will give you an error message. 9 out of 10 times, if not more, you will get the confirmation that everything went smoothly. But if there are some issues, then you'll get some error messages. And if you do have any issues dealing with the website and the web form, I will share our contact information so that if you are having trouble with our website, then you can contact us. We have a dedicated team who's here to support you with any issues that you might be having. So this is what I just went through was like creating that initial request and getting that data. But for National Grid, we provide up to like 4 years of aggregate usage. So if you would like, you can also request for like additional 2 years data. So again, you come back to the website, to our original website, ngrid.com/EPM. And then there is a link where you can request additional usage information as well. And you basically just fill out the form. Again, that's also very simple. You just need to provide your name, what year you're looking for, and just make sure that the terms and conditions are checked off. And it's really as simple as that. And hopefully, like once you create that request and you keep the permissions to full access, you'll continue to receive the aggregated usage on a quarterly basis. Like I mentioned, we do have a team of dedicated support for benchmarking. So if folks are having issues or they have a question that's not really you can't seem to find the answer for, we do have the support for our New York regions and for our Massachusetts regions, and also the emails and a dedicated phone line as well. So that pretty much wraps up like the entire process from start to finish. And now I'll go through some quick, like frequently asked questions that we tend to get from customers, property managers, and so on. If there are questions that are not answered here, feel free to ask them on the chat as well. So the first question is the request process manual or online? will the utility company upload directly to Portfolio Manager. So this process that I just went through, this is for the automated process, and we really ask that customers go through the automated process. It's really seamless once you have that established and you're not changing any of the permissions. So it should go through smoothly and you don't even really have to think about it. However, if there are issues that you are experiencing with the website, there is a manual process that we have as well, and for that you'll have to contact our team, the appropriate team, depending on which area that you're in, and or the call center, and we'll be able to help you. Here is the phone number and the email address that we have. Like I mentioned, I believe this deck will be shared, so you'll have it readily available. Also, what information should be provided for in the initial request? I think I see a hand.
Yeah, sorry, it's Tanya. In the chat function, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to let you know there's a chat question. The question came from Karen Leville. Why do we get gas data separated in Energy Star Portfolio Manager as heating and cooking main meters? Every cooking gas main meter I see from National Grids are all zeros.
Let me see. Lou, yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question. So Lou, if you are on the call, are you able to help Karen with this one?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lou Rizzo. So when we upload the data itself, we send up two separate files. One would have the heating usage, and one would have the cooking usage. So it depends on how the building systems are currently designed. So if it's on, let's say if the building has one master meter that includes both heating and cooking, we would provide that overall usage based on that master meter. If individual apartments have individual cooking accounts, then we would provide that information. Unfortunately, it sounds like the building that you're referring to maybe have one master meter and maybe have sub-meters. So we wouldn't be able to have access to the sub-meter information, but we would have access to that master meter that we uploaded, that we read and so forth, that we get information on. And that's the information that we'll be providing you for that building.
Thank you, Lou. And good question, Karen. I'm also noting it down so that we can add it to our FAQs as well. I hope that answered your question. So the other question was what information should be provided in the initial request. So for initial request, you're creating that EPM profile and connecting with National Grid. You're going through the Portfolio Manager series of steps there and creating that request. And then you are coming to the National Grid website and completing the web form that we have. So we need the Portfolio Manager ID, we need the service address, one active account number. You agree to the terms and condition and the electronic signature. So it's as simple as that for initial request. And for first time, that's for first time, but for existing EPM users, it's really just step B and C because you already have the EPM profile created. Next question, how long does it take to process data request? So normally it takes about 5 to 7 business days to upload that data onto the Portfolio Manager. And as always, like if you are experiencing delays or issues, then feel free to contact us in our customer service department. Next question, how long does a customer need to wait after submitting a share request to submit a National Grid benchmarking web form? So once you create that initial share request on Portfolio Manager, it really takes about 24 hours for National Grid to have that connection with EPM. Let me see. And for resharing, after you have reshared, again, it will take some additional time, anywhere from like 24 hours or so. But again, if it's like an extended period of time, we are here to help. So you can connect with us directly and we can answer any questions. I think this is a very similar question. How long does it take for National Grid to accept the portfolio manager share request? It 24 hours, 24 hours to validate that everything is correct and to accept on our end. How long does it take for the customer to get their aggregate data usage information? So to get the data uploads, once you've made the request and you completed all of the steps, it takes about 5 to 7 business days. How long will the quarterly upload last? So quarterly uploads last for 4 years, unless you deactivate the EPM, the portfolio manager, and the share, and you change any of the permissions. So if you do change any of the permissions, then you will have to reshare and make sure that all the permissions are granted all over again.
Hi, Tanzima. You have
Yes.
there's another question that's in the chat.
Yep.
So the question is, they said, thank you for the follow-up on the cooking meter. They're going to follow up you via email to get more, I guess, on their situation. But the question was, what is the difference between requesting data in Energy Star Portfolio Manager by sharing your property to exchange data versus the web services share request? I guess they just need some clarity of why the different steps.
So when you have the when you're setting up on the EPM, the portfolio manager, that's when you're really just establishing your EPM profile and you're making sure that National Grid is a contact, and you give permission to EPM to have that established. And then you have to come back to National Grid and give National Grid permission so that we can actually share that information back to the portfolio manager, and we can do that quarterly upload for you. So it's really just a two-step. You're making sure that you're complying with all the portfolio manager steps, and then you're coming back to Grid and making sure that you're complying with all the Grid terms and conditions and giving Grid permission to share that with the portfolio manager. Lou, did you want to add to that?
No, very, very, very clear. I guess if there's any follow-up questions, please follow us with an email, and we can definitely answer those. But it definitely, it's just a two-handshake process.
Yep.
That's required.
Yep. Thank you. Next question, if the request for data is denied, will the requester be informed of the reason why the request was denied? So if for any reason the request is denied, we can provide you an explanation as far as like why it was denied and exactly what steps you'd need to take to correct that and make sure that moving forward, it is able to go smoothly. So it is a case-by-case scenario. So I would recommend that you connect with one of our specialists, and then we can support you with that. Next question, what type of data does National Grid upload in EPM? So National Grid uploads annual whole building aggregate data information. So it is not by each tenant or anything like that. It will create any service address that you provide, it will provide the whole aggregate data for the entire service address. So for downstate New York, New York City and Long Island, we're servicing gas. And for upstate New York and Massachusetts, it's gas and electric, both. Will Energy Star Portfolio Manager send an email to confirm that the share request has been accepted? As far as I'm aware, there is no email notification. However, if you go into the Portfolio Manager, it will let you know that it's been confirmed and you can proceed to the next step. What aggregate usage information will I receive if I submit my request on January 1st? So it really is like a unique timeline around the end of year. So if you are submitting the data request on or before the year end, then it will give you the prior year's information. And again, so an example is like if you're requesting, if you requested on December 31, 2022, it will give you 2021 data. or if you're requesting it after or on or after January 1, 2023, then it will give you 2022 data. So like prior year's data, really. I think we get this question a lot. Does National Grid use tax lot block and lot number? So unfortunately, we do not use, our system is not equipped to connect with the block and lot number. We use service address specifically. How many months of data will National Grid be providing? So National Grid provides 12 months of aggregate usage information per service address, as I mentioned. And another note here that we are not providing block and lot property usage information. A lot of FAQs. Does National Grid provide an option for customers to receive additional usage information through the benchmarking web portal? Yes, I think we went over that steps a couple of slides back. We do allow customers to receive up to like 2 years of prior years usage information. So you'll have to fill out that form. It's a really simple form. You just fill it out and we'll be able to provide that for you. Does National Grid provide quarterly or monthly usage data? So we do provide quarterly data that gets uploaded onto the portfolio manager. And remember that the portfolio manager account really needs to be active, and the connection with Grid needs to be active. Is there a cost associated with this service and getting that upload process? So as of right now, this is a free of charge service for everyone, for our customers. No. Is the usage information provided based on a per meter basis or per building? So it is per building. So we provide whole building aggregated usage information according to the service address. I think this kind of answers from the previous question, can National Grid upload individual tenant information? We do not provide individual tenant information. It is whole building aggregate usage only. And if folks remember, for upstate New York and Massachusetts, if the building has 3 or less tenants, then we will require the tenant authorization form or the consent form. But this is not required for New York City or in Downstate, New York. Who are required to submit energy usage release forms? So just mentioned this one. So it's only required in upstate New York and Massachusetts. And this is if the service address or the building has 3 accounts or less, then you'll have to submit that form. But if you have 4 or more, then that is not required. For New York City and Long Island customer, it is mandate. So there is no tenant authorization form or the release form. That's not required for you guys. What happens if you mistakenly unshare? So if you change your permissions and like say deactivate and make that connection that the portal has with National Grid, and that's broken at one point. So if that does happen accidentally, you'll have to go back and make sure that you're connecting and choosing the appropriate full access back to National Grid again, and that we have full permission. If you are still doing that and continue to have issues, I would recommend that you connect with one of our specialists, as always, because this is not something that we experience often, but in a rare occasion, if it does happen, then we're here to like look at that specific example and like figure out like how we can help you there. Will I need to submit a new National Grid web form restart if after I reshare? Then again, like, yeah, if for any reason the permissions were altered or changed, then yes, you'll have to give full access all over again, and you'll have to do the web form all over again because at one point it was broken and we really need to reestablish that again. So that is all of the FAQs. I know that was a lot of FAQs. So I hope any of the questions that folks might already have were answered in those FAQs. But if not, feel free to ask them in the chat. But that really wraps up my presentation from National Grid. So I'll stop sharing and I will give it back to Tanya.
Great. Thank you. That
Thanks.
was really detailed and thorough, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the questions that we received. NFG will be presenting next. If you have any problems taking over the presenter role, let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Lohman. I'm with our consumer business department here at National Fuel. Just to begin, we have 3 different ways where you can obtain whole building consumption. So majority are using our correspondence, through email. We'll get a request in and just asking for, 24 months of usage history. However, we are trying to have people utilize the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So very similar to what National Grid just presented, we have instructions step by step on how to create the Portfolio Manager account and how to establish that connection with National Fuel. Again, at each step, there is that waiting period where we have to establish the connection, and then it's like a 24-hour period before you can move on to the next step. And so right over here again, it's just step by step. National Fuel is a contact within there, so it should be relatively easy to find. In order to get to the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, there is a link right through the National Fuel website. Once the share has been initiated, it is relatively easy to use. Each step you'll get a note, congratulations. It goes into the notifications right there in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And again, these are just step-by-step instructions that it's going to take 24 hours because it runs through our batch process, and that's where that delay is coming in. So the Energy Star enrollment form. So this is once the connection has been established. Doing it through the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the meter number is required. So it's either a manual entry or you can go to the website and enter the address. Say you only know one of the meter numbers. It goes to one of our back office clerks, a dedicated team, and then they can tie in the rest of the meters associated with that building. However, if you do have that information, I'm just going to pull over a spreadsheet that we have here. This is the form that is on the website. We would just ask for the meter numbers associated with the address, and it's just manual entry. I am hiding additional columns here. It's just property address and secondary locations. So that way you know that you're tying in all the meters associated with the connection. This is all going to be fed into a virtual meter that will be displayed in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So once the form is accepted, there's instructions here on username, where that's located, your property identification. And then again, once you have that established, it will feed into a virtual meter, and you can create however many virtual meters you need with meter count. So, just currently working on one with 150 meters now. It is a little bit of a process on our end, but once we get through that, it will be seamless, because then everyone can just go into the portfolio manager and they'll have this history available to them going forward. Again, very similar to what National Grid went through, 3 or less, the tenant authorization form is required. One other thing is if one single meter accounts for 50% of the total usage, then the tenant authorization form is required in those situations as well. Say you initiate the request and you put tenant authorization form is not required, we go through the process, we calculate the consumption, we might deny it, but then again, we will communicate that with whoever's initiating the property share and let them know that the tenant authorization forms are required. So there will be that communication in case there is, you know, a denial for whatever reason. So after everything has been initiated, again, it may take another 24-hour period just because it has to have that batch processing. Once that is initiated, it will then take up to, oh, excuse me, I already covered that. Then it will upload 12 months of consumption automatically. So it's a rolling 12 months. This is a program that is run monthly, and it will just automatically do a rolling 12 months. If a larger period is needed, say a 2-year history, we do have the ability to update and change that. That can be communicated to us right through our correspondence email address. Those requests are worked between 5 and 7 days. If there's, you know, a greater sense of urgency, you can email it to us. It's a matter of just going to one screen and updating. It's relatively easy. At the individual account level, so if you have a single account, you can just go into nationalfuel.com, you can register your account, and you'll have usage history for one single account. So this option is specific to the contract account, whereas the other one is the meter. So the Energy Star portfolio, we can tie in multiple meters, whereas this one is just contract account. And at National Fuel, one contract account is specific to one meter in most situations. We do have combined billing accounts, but those are very, very limited. So for this one, it's, you know, just imagine having that billing statement, creating the account using the account number on the top of the bill. And again, it's relatively easy. To obtain the actual meter history, we can just scroll down. This is all just step by step on how to register the account, but how to access your usage history. Again, you can just follow the step-by-step guide and click on your billing activity, and it will then bring you over to just whatever 24 months of history on the account. If you need a larger period, again, it's right through our customer service email, excuse me, and we can get you however much history that you need on the account. So 3 different options: individual account level, online, Energy Star portfolio manager, or just emailing our customer service email address, and all those requests are worked within 5 to 7 days. That's all I have for National Fuel.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't see any questions come in for NFG. The ONR will be presenting next. Let me know if you have any issues pulling the presenter role.
Okay.
Sorry, I see the question. Where can we obtain the guide? I didn't see it on your website yesterday.
Karen, I can email it to you. If you send me your email address, I can send that to you now.
Great. It looks like we're losing some attendees, unfortunately, but we'll be continuing to record, so should people need to drop and come back to the postings at some point in time, good to know. Okay, ONR?
Okay, good afternoon. Tanya, can you hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Phil Madnick from Orange and Rockland. I work in the Customer Energy Solutions Group, so mostly on the efficiency side, but likewise, I'm getting involved in some of this benchmarking issues, and I have one colleague here, Jonathan Rodriguez, from Customer Assistance. Also, I'm here to support if you have any questions. So let's go. We have a very brief presentation. Orange and Rockland does not have an automated web services functionality for our benchmarking program. We simply have a, and I'll just touch on it briefly with a couple FAQs to share. We simply have our web page, which is a manual process for customers to submit requests. And let me see if I could share the web page right here. let me know if folks could see that okay. Yes, actually, it looks like you are. So we just have our webpage where you could go. It's on the Orange and Rockland site. When you go to aggregated energy consumption data, and all it takes is 2 forms to fill out and send back to us. You can mail or email the forms back to us. And actually, I'll now walk you guys through the forms. The first form is a terms and conditions form. It's a simple 2-page document. Talks about you know what the response what our responsibilities are to you, and you'll sign off on that and send that in. And then the other form is the actual data request form, which you'll include your address, contact information, as well as we would like you to list all the meters that you're requesting to be aggregated for the building, electric and gas. So we make sure we pull the right amount of data. And that's that. Send that back to us, and within a 2 to 3 week window, we will return the aggregated data to you. Now, in terms of any FAQs, I just put together very briefly here, so it shouldn't take much longer. But once again, question: is this a manual or automated process? This is a manual process that we're doing, just to be clear. So, in other words, actually, to make crystal clear, we're not going to be uploading the data to Portfolio Manager. As you've seen in some of the earlier presentations, you will have to create your own account on Portfolio Manager and upload the aggregated data that we'll be sending you back by email. In terms of if you have any questions or concerns, the phone number is on the webpage, but it's also that's that 877-434-4100 to contact us if there's an issue. Like I said before, 2 to 3 weeks to turn around the data. The only time that we will deny a request for benchmarking is if it's the 450 rule, which is an issue throughout New York as well as in other states. That's if the building that you're requesting data for is less than 4 units or less, or one account represents 50% of the energy usage. Then we're gonna require you to get consent from all the other residents, all the other units, or all the other residents as well before sending the data. And once, of course, we get that consent, and that could be just it could be a handwritten letter just authorizing with that person's sign off and their account number, so we acknowledge that it's them that's giving you the consent. Once we get that back, it's submitted, we will turn around and send the aggregated data. Okay, that's all I have really to share. So let me see if I could stop sharing.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any questions in the chat?
Don't see any yet.
Okay. All right, so I can send it back to you, Tanya.
Great, and then Central Hudson will be our last presenter for the day.
Great, thank you.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Share my screen. All right, I believe everyone's able to see my screen at this point. So
yes,
hi, everyone. My name is Mike Valentino, a program manager here at Central Hudson. Similar to the presentation that Bill had just presented for O&R, we're in a very similar form in terms of the request being more of a manual process. We don't currently interface with Portfolio Manager. So what I put together for everyone today is just a request overview, and recognizing that some of the other utilities had an FAQ. I think I don't have an FAQ after this, but I think a lot of those questions will be asked or be answered through what I'm going to go through today. And then, of course, if there are more questions, I'm happy to connect with individuals offline. So there's really 2 ways to request information. One is to call our contact center and talk to one of our contact center representatives, and they'll end up reaching out to my team. This is probably a more streamlined approach where you'll have a couple less individuals or individuals to talk to before getting to my team. So to request building data, simply send an email to energyefficiencyteam@sunhud.com. From there, we'll get you our data request form. This is a version of it that you see on the screen here, where, just with we're requesting some basic contact information for the building or our property owners, the type of data that you're looking for, whether it be electric or gas consumption or both, and then a listing of the account numbers that we would need to be pulling from to get you the information. Once you complete and send back your data form, we'll go ahead and aggregate and anonymize all of the monthly usage data by fuel type for you. And then we'll send the data back in a Microsoft Excel format via email. And if you are, a lot of the inquiries we receive currently are not importing into Portfolio Manager, even though we do provide that recommendation. But if you are looking for the format to be compatible with Portfolio Manager, we can send it to you in that format. And then we ask that you allow us 2 weeks to get your request complete. It is a free service that we provide to our customers. So while my presentation was brief, I'll ask if there are any questions from the audience.
Hi, this is Kelly. I have one question for you, just a little clarification. I see here on your building data request form, it's asking for account number. Would meter number suffice, or does it need to be account number?
So meter number could possibly work. I would need to double check that, to be honest with you, Kelly, to make sure that we can find that, we can find all the account numbers based on that meter number. There may be some reverse engineering on our back end to look the information up. But account number is probably the most streamlined approach, but we likely could work with meter number if that's what individuals are used to working with.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, great. We also see a question from Karen that says, we won't have tenant meter numbers nor account numbers. Can we provide the unit addresses?
You can. You can provide the unit addresses. Again, we may need to work together a little more closely to ensure that we're pulling all the correct information in that you need for the particular unit. But we can work with whatever information you have, but we'll just have to work a little more closely, and there may be some additional steps to making sure we're pulling the correct information for you.
Great.
I'll just add that from HCR's perspective, if you are a benchmarking service provider working with one of our properties, please ask them to just look for the meter numbers. It should be at their property, whether it's the property manager or the super, because I know that not everyone's in the same place and you can't necessarily travel to every property that you are working with, but please do ask them to collect that information.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so I don't see any more questions, and I appreciate all the time. If there's follow-up, please let Kelly know, and we will work to get answers to your questions. I'm going to stop the recording.